Karen mocked a Latino man's accent. He was the police chief at her complaint hearing. Chapter 1, it started as these things often did, with a noise. A low thudding beat, muffled bass through the walls. It was a Saturday afternoon in suburban Crestwood Hills, and the sun was blazing, sprinklers sputtering in synchronized cycles, and birds chirping on cue like some kind of HOA curated soundtrack. Karen Whitmore flinched as the bass throbbed through her living room. She paused her midday tea routine, set the porcelain cup down a little too hard on the saucer, and marched straight to the front window. Her designer sandals clicked with purpose against the tile floor. She pushed aside the sheer curtain with one manicured finger and scowled at the scene across the street. 3 houses down, someone was throwing what could only be described as a gathering. Children ran laughing through the front yard. Folding chairs lined the driveway. There was a grill, a cooler, music, actual music, played through a portable speaker propped on the porch rail. Karen's lips thinned into a straight line. "This is a quiet neighborhood," she muttered, to no one. Raymond, her husband, didn't look up from his recliner. He had learned long ago that the safest way through Karen's neighborhood rants was to make himself invisible. Karen turned from the window and strode toward her iPad. She opened the HOA portal, then thought better of it. Direct action was more effective. She stormed out of the house, snapping her sunglasses onto her nose and smoothing her floral blouse. By the time she reached the sidewalk across the street, she had already built her opening speech in her head. Firm, respectable, disapproving, but neighborly. But the man who greeted her smile froze her mid-stride. He was tall, tanned, short dark hair, maybe late 40s, a calm, unreadable expression on his face as he stood by the grill, flipping carne asada over an open flame. "Hi there," he said cheerfully. "Need a plate?" Karen blinked. "No, I most certainly do not," he chuckled. "All right, just offering. My name's Javier. We just moved in last week, house 218. Karen did not offer her name. "There are noise rules in this neighborhood, HOA guidelines. This kind of gathering requires notice, approval. There are time restrictions." Javier tilted his head slightly. "Ah, we're under the limit. We measured the decibels just in case. Want to see the reading?" Karen ignored the question. "And the vehicles parked along the curb, that's a safety concern, not to mention the children in the street." "You mean my nieces?" Javier smiled again. "They're not in the street. They're playing on the lawn. You okay, ma'am?" Karen stiffened. "I don't appreciate the tone." Javier raised an eyebrow. "It's just an accent. I'm not trying to upset you." She huffed. "No, not your accent, your tone. You sound—" She waved a hand, trying to find the word, "dismissive. And frankly, if I can't understand you properly, maybe don't host parties." A few neighbors turned to look. One woman, mid-conversation, stopped chewing her hot dog. Javier's face didn't change, but something in his posture did. He stood a little straighter. His smile tightened. Karen added, "I'll be filing a formal complaint." "Feel free," he said. She turned and marched off, heat rising to her cheeks. Not from embarrassment, no, never embarrassment, but from righteous indignation. Back inside her house, she filed the report. She didn't just write about excessive noise. She included comments about potential illegal activities, about unfamiliar guest loitering, and communication challenges with the head of household. She even mentioned possible undocumented status, though she made sure to phrase it as a neighborhood safety concern. Satisfied, she submitted the form with a dramatic tap. She had no idea what she just started. Chapter 2. On Monday morning, she got the email. Subject: Community Standards Complaint, Public Hearing Notification. Karen opened it, surprised. Most complaints were handled internally. This one apparently had been escalated. A formal hearing had been scheduled at the Crestwood Hills Civic Center, with neighborhood board members and a representative from the police liaison office. The email included time, location, and a short note. "The respondent has requested public attendance." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Fine," she said aloud. "He wants to make this a show? I'll bring my binder." She printed out everything: noise ordinance PDFs, HOA violation screenshots, even grainy zoomed-in photos of kids sitting too close to the sidewalk. She highlighted passages in neon. She rehearsed her talking points. She practiced a calm tone and a neutral smile. She would not let this turn into another next-door scandal. Not like the time she'd reported a family for suspicious lawn ornaments that turned out to be a memorial. No, this time she'd be ready. Chapter 3. The day of the hearing arrived and the Civic Center buzzed. The room was already half full when Karen walked in, binder pressed to her chest like a shield. She recognized a few neighbors, some from book club, some from the HOA meetings. Most didn't wave. A few avoided eye contact altogether. She took her seat near the front. Javier was already there. He wore a navy polo and slacks. His expression was unreadable. He chatted quietly with someone beside him, a city staffer maybe. Karen didn't recognize the woman, didn't care to. A few moments later, the board members filed in. Then a man in a dark suit entered and took the center seat at the head of the table. Karen barely looked up as she pulled out her first talking point. The man cleared his throat. "Good afternoon. I'm Chief Javier Morales, Crestwood Hills Police Department. I've been asked to mediate today's hearing regarding a complaint filed by Ms. Karen Whitmore." Karen froze. The room stilled. She looked up. Really looked. Same face, same calm voice, same accent. The man she mocked for sounding unprofessional was now seated at the head of the table, as chief of police. The binder in her lap suddenly felt like dead weight. Chapter 4. Karen's brain was still catching up. Chief? Chief! She stared at him, open-mouthed. A wave of embarrassment crawled over her scalp like static. Her hands clutched the binder harder. Her palms were slick with sweat. There were murmurs now, whispers rising through the room like a tide. "That's the guy she complained about? He's the police chief." "Karen's so screwed," Javier, Chief Morales, continued like nothing had happened. "The purpose of this hearing is to determine if any HOA or civil ordinances were violated during the event in question. We'll begin with the complainant." Karen blinked. "Ms. Whitmore," he said, with the faintest flicker of amusement in his eyes. "You have the floor." She stood slowly like someone stepping out onto thin ice. Her usual confidence had cracked. Her voice, usually clipped and sharp, now trembled just slightly. "Thank you, Chief." She swallowed. "As I stated in my report, there was significant noise coming from House 218. The music was loud, disruptive, and unannounced. There were vehicles lining the street and children running unsupervised. A few people exchanged glances. One board member tilted her head. Karen flipped her binder open and pointed to a blurry photo. "This is from 2:17 p.m. You can see the congestion. This isn't safe or appropriate for a community like Crestwood Hills." Chief Morales waited a beat. "Ma'am, did you attempt to speak with the resident?" "I did." "And what was the interaction like?" Karen hesitated. "He was difficult to understand. He had an accent and a tone." Someone near the back chuckled. Karen's eyes flared. "I didn't mean that in a derogatory way. I just meant it was hard to get clarity." The chief raised a brow. "So you were uncomfortable with the way I spoke to you?" Silence. Karen flushed. "Yes." He let it hang for a moment, then nodded. "Understood. Thank you. Let's proceed." Chapter 5. Then came the video. The staffer beside Chief Morales tapped her laptop, and the projector screen behind the table lit up. It was doorbell footage, clear as day. The video showed Karen marching across the street. Her body language was tense. Then came the confrontation. Karen's voice, loud, clipped. "There are rules here. People like you should—" It cut off. Then her mocking imitation. "You want to have a party? Maybe go somewhere else, okay?" The room gasped. Karen blinked furiously. I didn't—" Chief Morales pressed pause. "That video was submitted by 3 separate neighbors. None of them related to me." A woman on the board leaned forward. "Ms. Whitmore, are you saying this recording is inaccurate?" Karen shook her head slowly. "No, I didn't realize I was being recorded." That didn't help. Chief Morales continued calmly. "The vehicles were legally parked. The decibel levels were within ordinance. The children, my nieces, were on the property, and we had no open containers, no smoking, no violations of fire code." Another board member added, "Actually, I recall seeing a waiver for the outdoor grill submitted on move-in day." "You approved it, Ms. Whitmore." Karen stared down at her binder. I must have forgotten. Chapter 6. The board voted unanimously to dismiss her complaint. That would have been enough, but the fallout was just beginning. The next day, a video snippet of Karen's accent mockery hit Facebook, then Reddit, then TikTok. Within 48 hours, it had a hashtag, Karen vs. the chief. The comments were savage. She really tried to clown the police chief's accent? In this economy? When racism backfires in 4K. This ain't HOA Karen, this is HOA cringe. Karen's inbox exploded. 3 parents pulled their kids from her piano lessons. Her yoga studio canceled her membership due to a sudden policy adjustment. And someone left a single tortilla on her porch with Adios Racista written in permanent marker. Chapter 7. But the real blow came at the next HOA meeting. Karen came in early, hoping to control the narrative. She wore her best pressed blazer, neutral tones, minimal makeup, the picture of professionalism. But the seats filled fast, and not for her. People came to support Chief Morales, who had quietly become something of a local icon. One of the neighborhood dads even brought cupcakes with little firefighter hats and police badges piped in icing. Karen was barely acknowledged. When George Hamilton, the HOA president, gave his opening remarks, he didn't even mention Karen by name. We've had some tense moments recently, he said, but I'd like to publicly thank Chief Morales for his service, his leadership, and his grace. The room clapped, loudly. Karen sat frozen. Then George added, I'd also like to revisit our committee leadership assignments. We believe it's time for new energy on the Community Standards Board. Karen's position. Her hands tightened on her clipboard. George continued, I move that we relieve Ms. Whitmore of her committee role effective immediately. Seconded, voted, passed. Just like that. Her title, her power, her little kingdom, gone. Chapter 8. Karen didn't sleep that night. She stared at the ceiling in her silent, perfectly temperature-controlled bedroom, while Raymond snored beside her, oblivious, or pretending to be. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the way the board members looked at her, not with fear or respect, but dismissal, worse than scorn, like she didn't matter anymore. That was unacceptable. She hadn't spent 12 years shaping this community just to be erased by some flashy, badge-waving immigrant with a smug smile and a viral video. No, this was not over. Karen rose at 4:00 a.m., poured herself a half glass of wine, no ice, and sat at the dining room table with a yellow legal pad. She wrote a list at the top. Reputation strategy, reclimb. Underneath, she began bulleting steps. Speak to Marlene at the Willow Community Bulletin. Subtle editorial insert. Organize a Heritage Harmony event. Spin it as diversity outreach, while taking control of the narrative. Gather evidence of HOA bias, hint at favoritism, racial overcorrection. File anonymous report with City Review Board. She circled the last one twice. If they want drama, she muttered, I'll give them something to remember. Chapter 9. The article dropped 2 days later. The headline read, Is Crestwood Hills Losing Its Standards? It was printed anonymously, but everyone knew it was Karen's voice behind the passive-aggressive phrases. In today's charged climate, it's easy to forget the importance of clear speech, respectful behavior, and long-standing traditions. When community leaders act more like influencers than protectors, the question must be asked, who are we really protecting? Within hours, people were sharing screenshots. Someone underlined clear speech in red and wrote, Just say you hate accents, Karen. Another added, This is the most polite racism I've ever read. Chief Morales didn't respond publicly. He didn't need to. The silence from his end only made her look more petty. To Chapter 10. Then came the school incident. Karen had been scheduled to guest teach a music class at the local elementary. It was something she'd done for years, an enrichment opportunity, she called it. But this time, when she arrived, the front desk attendant looked hesitant. I'm so sorry, Ms. Whitmore, she said quietly. We actually had to cancel today's visit. A scheduling mix-up. Karen narrowed her eyes. A mix-up? Yes. The woman glanced around. There have been concerns raised. Parental feedback. Some expressed discomfort after recent events. Karen's mouth opened. Are you telling me I'm being canceled? No, ma'am. Just postponed. Karen walked out with her head high, but her stomach twisted. The hallway bulletin board had a new flyer on it. Community Hero Talk with Chief Javier Morales. This Friday, his smiling photo beamed back at her. Below it, leadership, language, and listening. Chapter 11, she tried again, this time with the mayor's office. Karen filed a formal ethics complaint accusing Chief Morales of using his position to influence community decision-making and embarrass a private citizen for personal gain. She used phrases like perceived favoritism, hidden agendas, unlawful cultural bias, but the city clerk flagged the complaint immediately. A week later, Karen received an official response. Your claim lacks substantiated evidence and appears to stem from a personal grievance regarding a lawful and closed community hearing. This matter is considered resolved. Worse, someone leaked the complaint. It hit local news. Former HOA member attempts to smear Latino police chief after losing hearing. It was brutal. She received prank calls. Her Yelp page for piano lessons got spammed with reviews like, 1 star, tried to teach me Chopin, insulted my cousin's accent. Even her old book club replaced her with a substitute host. Karen cornered Trish at Trader Joe's. You replaced me over this, she snapped. Trish shrugged, avoiding eye contact. Karen, it's not just this. It's everything. You don't listen. You act like you own the whole neighborhood. I saved this neighborhood, Karen hissed. No, Trish said gently. You policed it. Chapter 12. Then came the eggs. It happened overnight. Karen awoke to the sound of something wet and sloppy hitting the siding. 3 eggs, cracked against the front of her home, dripping from the window ledge. She called the police. The responding officer was polite, but dismissive. Ma'am, it's a prank. No property damage. Do you have cameras? No, she snapped. Then there's not much we can do. Karen bristled. I'm a target. I filed complaints against the chief, and now this happens? The officer raised an eyebrow. You think the police chief egged your house? Karen flushed. I didn't say that. Right. He closed his notebook. Let us know if it escalates. As he walked back to his cruiser, she heard him mutter, This neighborhood drama, man. Chapter 13. Karen stood in front of her mirror, smoothing the front of her blazer. Royal blue, strong, decisive. She'd printed her campaign flyers the night before. 50 of them. They were simple but elegant. Karen Whitmore for HOA President Restore. Respect. Results. She looked at her reflection and nodded once, the same way she had before every piano recital she ever performed. Chin up, eyes forward. If they wanted a leader, they'd get one. If they wanted drama, she'd give them structure. If they wanted to shame her, she'd outlast them. Chapter 14. The first sign appeared the next morning on her perfectly manicured lawn. Karen Whitmore for HOA President. It stood out like a beacon, bold, blue, and smug. Some of the neighbors gave it side-eye as they walked their dogs. Others paused longer, mouths tight. One teen took a photo and posted it online with the caption, Karen really trying to run this place like a plantation. Cure your Karen for what? Karen didn't care. She had a plan. Chapter 15. She began knocking on doors. At first, people were polite, mostly retirees, the ones who hated skateboards and solar garden lights as much as she did. She played her greatest hits. This neighborhood used to be so quiet. Too much has changed too fast. We need someone who actually follows the rules. It worked, on maybe 4 of them, but others weren't buying it. At one house, a mother opened the door with a toddler on her hip and said, Honestly, we feel safer now that you're not on the board. At another, a teenage girl handed Karen her own flyer back, folded into a paper airplane. But the worst was when she walked past George, the current HOA president, chatting with none other than Chief Javier Morales, who was laughing with 2 teenage boys and handing out flyers for a community safety fair. She locked eyes with him. He gave her a nod, polite, professional, devastating. Chapter 16. Karen hosted a campaign event at her home. 10 people came. 4 left before the snacks came out. She showed a slideshow, charts about property values, photos of mailboxes slightly out of regulation, a graph titled, Noise Violations Before and After 2020. One older couple clapped politely. Another man asked, "What are you going to do about all this activism stuff?" Karen smiled. I believe we've let emotions run the board too long. I'll bring us back to basics. No cheers, no applause, but a few nods. Good enough, she thought. Chapter 17. Meanwhile, George didn't campaign at all. He didn't put out signs, didn't knock on doors, didn't even speak at the last HOA meeting, but his supporters did. Neighbors brought baked goods to houses with George Wilson for HOA signs. Chief Morales organized a block cleanup and was spotted helping an elderly man fix a sagging fence. No press, just kindness. Even Karen's husband Raymond got involved. One day she came home to find his own sign staked in the yard. George Wilson for HOA president leadership. You can trust, she stormed inside. What is that? Raymond didn't look up from the newspaper. It's a sign. You put it on our lawn? I did. I'm running, Raymond. I know, he said calmly. And I'm voting for someone else. Her mouth fell open. You're against me? He looked at her for the first time in days. No, Karen, I'm tired of you. Chapter 18. Election day arrived like a thundercloud. Karen wore her navy dress suit, pearls, perfect hair. She made small talk outside the polling area, smiling stiffly, holding her clipboard like a shield. Most people walked right past her. Inside, the votes were cast quietly. An older woman patted George on the arm. A teenager gave Javier Morales a fist bump. Karen's name was barely mentioned. The results came in the next morning. She lost. By 219 votes. George had 247. Karen had 28. Chapter 19. She didn't leave her house for 3 days. Her campaign signs were gone by morning, some taken down by neighbors, some crumpled in her trash. People started calling her Karen with a capital K, as a noun, not a name. At a local coffee shop, she overheard a girl whisper to her friend, "That's her, the one who mocked the police chief's accent." Even the grocery store felt colder. She caught the cashier purposely rebagging her produce just a little too slow. The barista spelled her name wrong on her latte. Twice. Karen Whitmore had officially become a punchline. Chapter 20. Karen watched from her window as the neighborhood moved on without her. The community safety fair had music, booths, and smiling families. Kids ran around with little police badge stickers and firefighter helmets. Chief Morales gave a short speech that made people laugh and tear up in the same breath. She wasn't invited. She wouldn't have gone anyway, she told herself, but she still watched. When a toddler tripped and scraped his knee, Javier knelt to help. The crowd parted for him like he was made of light. Even the dog walkers paused, nodding to him like he was family. Karen, from her perfect porch, was invisible. Chapter 21. A week later, her HOA complaint portal login stopped working. She called the office. The receptionist, after a pause, replied politely, "Your access was suspended due to abuse of the system. It'll be reinstated in 6 months. Pending board review." Karen's voice cracked. "I just want the trash bins at 114 moved back 6 inches. Ma'am," the receptionist said gently, "you've filed 43 complaints in 2 weeks. We've received 0 community support for any of them." Click. Karen sat in silence for a long time, staring at the blinking cursor on her monitor. Chapter 22. Later that week, an anonymous envelope appeared in her mailbox. No return address. Inside were printouts, screenshots from Facebook, Reddit, and a quote from a podcast. Karen Whitmore didn't just get it wrong, she doubled down when she had every chance to do better. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. At the bottom of the envelope, someone had scrawled in Sharpie, "You became the thing this place used to fear." Karen's hands shook. She didn't even finish her wine that night. Chapter 23. She tried one last thing. She sent a private apology letter to Chief Morales' office. It was short, carefully worded, still defensive, still full of phrasing like misunderstood intentions and poor communication from both sides. She got no reply. Instead, 3 days later, she received a postcard in the mail from the Crestwood Hills Youth Leadership Camp. "Thanks to your complaint, Chief Morales decided to fund this summer's bilingual community outreach workshops himself. Your mistake became our mission. Gracias." No signature. Just a photo of smiling teenagers. black, brown, and white, standing in front of a banner that read, "Community is built, not enforced." Karen sat down hard on the porch step. For the first time, she cried. Not from anger, not from embarrassment, but from the awful, late-dawning realization. She had become everything she used to hate in other people. Chapter 24. She didn't go out for a while, but eventually she began walking again. Short strolls around the block, eyes lowered, nodding without expecting anything in return. And something strange started happening. Neighbors didn't glare anymore. They didn't smile either, but they didn't cross the street when they saw her coming. One day she saw Javier jogging, earbuds in. He didn't stop, but he nodded once. A simple acknowledgement. And for the first time in months, Karen exhaled without bitterness. Chapter 25. At the next HOA meeting, she sat in the back. No clipboard, no binder, just a notebook and pen. When George asked for volunteers for the new welcome committee, no one raised their hand. Until her. The room turned, stunned. Karen looked down as she said, "I'd like to try." George hesitated, then gave her a small, cautious nod. "Thank you, Karen." Epilogue. That spring, a new family moved in 2 houses down. A young couple, Latino, early 30s, with a baby and a golden retriever. Karen walked over with a basket of lemon muffins and a neighborhood directory. They looked at her warily at first, but then she smiled. Not the old tight-lipped Karen smile, but something softer. "Welcome to Crestwood Hills," she said. "If you need anything, I'm around." They invited her in for a quick cup of coffee. Just a few minutes, and she sat, for once not to control, but to listen. The end.